I would like to welcome everyone to the Roxborough Roundtables. My name is Jessica Putman, and I'm the student coordinator for the tables. Today our topic is Too Big to Fail Again, and our host today will be Dr. Steven Spinelli.
Hello, this is Steve Spinelli, and we have a co-host, don't we?
Yes.
Who is our co-host?
Ooh, that's not nice.
That's not nice? No, he can say it.
And I'll be Steve's sidekick co-host, Rob Fleming, from the director of the Sustainable Design Department here at Philadelphia, the award-winning Sustainable Design Department.
And in this duo, I am the entertainment, and he is the intellect. So You should listen to me if you want a good laugh, and you should listen to him if you want to be informed.
Right, so if you want to know the truth, come this way.
Yes, I agree.
So we thought we'd talk about how those started. Steve sends me articles from the Wall Street Journal, which I love, by the way. I'm so glad that you do that. And these articles are about climate change, and they always have a kernel of a fact. They take one little fact and they make a whole article about how climate change really either isn't happening or really isn't that bad. And these articles they're decent. And then Steve and I go back and forth, and somehow we got into the discussion about solar panels and how great they are, but we have to subsidize them. The government is going to throw money at this, and Steve took umbrage to the fact that his tax money is going for solar panels on my roof. By the way, I have a solar array. You all, if you're Pennsylvania residents, you've helped me support that, so I appreciate that.
So if anyone needs a place to stay, you own a portion of his home.
You do.
Feel free to go.
You do.
And the refrigerator is yours too. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So then I had to agree with Steve. I think that ultimately incentives are really not the way we would like to go. We think the free market should take care of these environmental problems. And then you said, what did you say after that?
I said I probably agree with you. But there is an interesting bigger question that we are constantly debating and that I'm seriously tortured about. And it is this idea of too big to fail. And if one were to look at at a bank, or if you look at a business, and there's a debate about too big to fail, it's very difficult to argue that the environment isn't too big to fail. So we have this sort of tortured philosophy over the government interfering with the marketplace. But is the interference really important because the underpinning question is so big? And so?
Well, and so there was an argument about, I said to Steve, the banks are too big to fail, the environment is too big to fail, the government's got to do more. The government's got to do a lot more.
I think that's an informative and interesting point. Now, the fact is, I am a dyed-in-the-wool capitalist. I do believe in the free market, and I believe in the profit motivation, and I believe that most profit is derived from a desire to make the world a better place. It is certainly an imperfect world, but it is more perfect than any other economic system, in my opinion.
When you say most, you mean 51%, I'm assuming, because I couldn't imagine any higher than that.
I would say 99.
Okay.
But I certainly would say that it is probably a far greater percentage than any other economic system, and a greater percentage than most behavior. That most people who are investing or beginning businesses, in particular, my favorite sector, are doing it because they do believe they're doing good. Now, and I would give some examples. And I always ask this question, is the entrepreneurial capabilities of a drug dealer are pretty acute. They understand the marketplace, they understand supply and demand. I have an economics professor here, Professor Dada, who knows supply and demand better than I do, and the pricing influences of supply and demand. But I don't know any business person or any economist or any professor that says a drug dealer is an entrepreneur. And what is the difference? They're doing commerce, they understand microeconomic theory, the theory of the firm, and they execute it with incredible efficiency. And they make a profit. The problem is that they're not advancing civilization, that there isn't real value created. So the real motivation for virtually every business person I know, there is personal interest in it. I mean, I think making money is okay, and I think it's even good. But they want to do good.
I have some reservations, evidently, with what you're saying. I do believe many, many people get into business for the right reasons. The problem is that it only takes a few to get in for the wrong reasons, and few can do a tremendous amount of damage. There are people out there that the profit, and there's nothing wrong with making money. I'm a capitalist as well. I've made money. I'm very happy about it. Okay, so I'm not going to be a hypocrite. But on the other side of it, there are people who are in for money's sake, or for power's sake. And it only takes 10%, or even 1%, to do a tremendous amount of damage to our environment, our economy. Look at Enron, for example. There's one example of a company that was not in to better America. Hardly there to better California as they increased the energy rates to an unbelievable amount that people are paying so much money for energy so they could profit unbelievably, steal money from their own company, and eventually bankrupt how many people when the stock went to nothing. It takes one company
It's a
to
great
do a lot of
example.
damage.
And what happened to Enron?
Out of business.
It's out of business.
But the damage was done.
marketplace punishes them. So should we punish the other 90% because of what happened with Enron? No, punish Enron. It is the same, I think, perversion of the too big to fail phenomenon. I think it's a perversion of the lender of last resort, classical theory. The lender of last resort became the federal bank. The federal banking system was there to make sure there was enough liquidity to support the growth in the economy. The federal bank, I think, it'd be interesting to be challenged on this, I think should not be there to eliminate problems or shocks, but to buffer problems and shocks. And they should allow poorly run banks to fail. I don't believe in too big to fail. If you've run it poorly and you've done a bad job, Enron or Lincoln Bank, you should fail. And the Federal Reserve System should support the good players in making up the liquidity. They should charge them, and there should be some pain involved, but they should be supporting the good players. If we punish the good players, they'll start going away.
No.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
They're economist friendly.
No, I'm Anu. Well, I agree with what you're saying, and I think the bank problem is completely different from the environment problem. The bank problem was created. So in a sense, the point that you're making, that we should allow failing banks to fail, absolutely that should be the way to go, because what we have done is, what the Fed did recently, I guess it didn't have much of a choice. The system had become so rotten, and I teach that in my class, how it started with the housing market and all these, bad mortgage loans that the banks had given out. And so you had all these big banks that were very heavily leveraged on mortgage securities. Essentially what happened was they let Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns fail. That's where it started. And then they suddenly realized that the problem was not just that. The Citibank and Bank of America and all of the big banks here had a lot of these bad toxic loans. So the issue was that if the Federal Reserve Bank had not stepped in at that time, many of these large banks would have collapsed, and that would have made the recession way worse than where we were at that point of time.
Take it back one more step. Why were all those bad loans made? What was the economic motivation, the risk-return profile that the banks had? Why did they have that profile? Why would they take such crazy risks?
Because interest rate was at zero.
Oh, how did that happen?
And who did that? The Fed did that, absolutely. And I agree.
So they created an environment that produced perverse economic incentives. They should not be playing at that level.
Yeah.
They should let the market do that, and then the bad players get punished.
Absolutely.
All right, so let me jump in here because we've talked a lot about the motivations of self-interest, profit, I'll say greed a little bit. There's another motivation that humans have, which is empathy. We have empathy for each other. We have empathy for future generations we haven't met yet. And taking care of the environment displays our empathy for people we haven't met. So you have a whole nonprofit world too, by the way. People that go in and start companies that are nonprofit, and their goal is to make the world a better place. And they're increasing every year. More and more you see nonprofits coming. So sustainability in the environment is not just about saving the environment, it's about saving quality of life for future generations. your grandkids are going to inherit the environment that you either fixed or didn't fix. And we're in that zone right now, this time. This next 20 to 30 year period is really critical. So based on everything that I feel like the environment is even a bigger thing that we can't let fail than the banks. So what are we going to do about
But
this?
see, again, we have a basic disagreement. I think the banks should have failed.
Right. Now let's talk
No,
about the.
and I
So
agree.
let's assume that's good.
No, I'm
So-
agreeing with you on that. I'm saying that as far as the bank's problem was something that was created partly because of policy, and so the bank problem can still be solved. You talked, Nuriel Rubini and NYU essentially has been saying that you need to break up these banks. So we don't have a too big to fail problem. Environment is a completely different
So
issue.
let's go down the road. Let's say we let the environment fail. Let's go by your philosophy. Let's just let it fail for a minute.
No,
See what that-
that's not what I said.
Oh, darn, okay.
I didn't say let the banking system fail. I said let the bad players fail.
Okay.
Punish the bad players, not the system. We should be neutral about that.
Okay.
We should let the market will do a better job. You, by the way, in this room, and anyone that might be listening, you're the market. So if you make a decision they're a bad player, they will fail.
There's a problem with that. I like your, in theory, that sounds great, but in this case, the market doesn't move fast enough and big enough to save that situation.
So we have a
You
condition.
knew I was going to say that, didn't I?
Yes.
You did. Okay.
Because that's what you usually say.
Yeah, you're a student.
I was going to say I'd like to
Name.
interject. Andrew Shinsky, fourth year Law and Society major. I mean, for the sustainability issue, I think, and you talked about empathy,
Yeah.
capitalism is often equivocated with competition in the market, but it also leads to greater cooperation. I mean, even for the banks to a certain degree, why would they report their credit loans of bad creditors if they could just not report on that and let them go to another bank and then cause them a problem? But the point is it does cause a greater cooperation in the marketplace, hence why we're seeing globalization, economic regionalization. So, I mean, now if more countries coalesce with one another, like let's say the TPP, which a lot of people, I'm not sure what your opinion on that is, but I think if you have those countries coalesce around one another, they might be able to allow a greater market shock. Let's say if China, which isn't part of the TPP, would have to maybe regulate themselves in a more proficient manner if the TPP and countries like the US were willing to play ball. Although I'm not really sure climate change would be the biggest incentive to do that, considering China and India, the biggest polluters, don't want to play games because they're developing economic powers when we've already developed.
So you have a history of a governing unit doing a poor job, and we want to give them a more important role in what you think is a more important problem, where they can't affect the entire population. So the government of the United States can't say to China, you can't pollute.
No, of course.
So the greatest polluters can get away, and we will be punished for it. That's what I'm hearing you say.
But haven't we always been the country that leads the way and serves as the model for the rest of the world? When did we start worrying about who's getting what? Aren't we setting the bar high?
But even
No,
Don't we do that?
I've always worried about who's getting what.
I know, but isn't going back to too big to fail? We have an ideal in the U.S. as being a leader in the world and setting the bar for higher performance, right?
Well,
No,
it's a terribly wonderful idea.
Yeah, I know.
No, I guess the first thing about
Completely
environment and how it's different from the banks, for instance,
Yeah.
is the fact.
Yeah.
I mean, let's take a very simple example. If you have the auto industry, you set up a factory and you're building cars, and as a byproduct you have pollution coming out of this, it doesn't cost me anything to pollute, right? So is there a market for pollution? There is no market for pollution, so there is no price on that. And so
Not yet.
essentially what we have as far as the pollution problem is, it's a market failure. There is no market for it. And so something has to be done to make that company internalize that cost.
Let me test
And
that theory.
as you're producing more cars, you're also creating a byproduct which is bad for the country or for the people, and so they have to internalize that cost. And the way they do that, and that's when government has to play a role. I mean, that's kind of what I teach in economics.
Let me
and there
test
are
the
parts
theory.
where the government has a role to play. There's no other entity that can do this.
The government does have a role. I think what we're talking about is the extent of the role, first of all, but I'd like to test your theory. Let's talk about this room. We have, 8, 10 people here. There is a report that says Spinelli Motor Company is dumping toxic waste into the Wissahickon water system. Next is an ad that says, buy a Spinelli car. How many people in this room will be affected by the fact that I'm dumping waste in the Wissahickon and will be deterred from buying a car from me?
they may be completely.
No, I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
Which 10 of you
No.
are?
Depends on cost too.
I was
So you
thinking
don't
that.
care
There you
about
go.
the environment?
Depends
If
on
you
the
give
cost
me
of
for
the
a
car.
penny.
How many people are
Depends on the
buying
cost of the
T-shirts that are made by children in Vietnam? And we know it. But when you walk into whatever store it is, you're going to pick out the T-shirt that's $4 cheaper, and then you're going to feel bad about it for a moment. I can tell you, there are people who will say, I don't want the Spinelli car because Spinelli is an evil company and it's polluting the environment. But
So there is
there's
an
gonna be a
effect.
lot. There is some, but I'm going
Yeah,
to tell you,
but
most people
it's
are going to
not-
buy
There
those
is an
T-shirts
effect.
and buy those cars.
But that's not
Yeah.
going to regulate
No.
your pollution at all.
Why?
Because
You're still making a
at the
profit.
end of
How
the
do you
day-
know that?
At the end
Because
of the
these
day,
companies are still making profits.
I
and they're
don't.
still
I disagree.
making
Are
these
you saying
T-shirts.
that the effect of public relations on the depressed pricing or revenue of a company will not affect their behavior?
no, most of the time what happens is if you ask someone here how much pollution is being put out by the auto industry, most of us wouldn't know. Most consumers do not know.
So then
and
the
especially
role
when
of
you-
government
when
is
you
to
don't see
create
it, like you said,
information.
in the
I
case
do
of
agree with
China,
that.
When you don't see it, the only thing I'm concerned when I'm walking into a store is what is the price of the thing I want to buy.
That's not true.
most of the
No,
time.
that is not
Now,
true.
as an economist,
but-
I'm telling you that.
As a behavioral economist, I'm telling you I think
But
you're
Steve,
wrong.
if your theory was correct, if the free market makes corrections and checks, we wouldn't be sitting here debating about the environment failing, wouldn't we? Wouldn't the free market have already solved that?
But
No.
I think
You just said it would. It
No,
should correct all
again, you're
problems.
looking for perfection.
Well, I'm looking
and that's
for-
not going to happen, and the government will not provide that perfection.
But the government has to step in to pick up what you guys haven't
I
done.
agree.
All right, you got a student?
I think that's like the mistake we make as, I mean, just either voters or people as a whole. There's no utopic society. You just have to build a better society. But with that being said, if we're talking about government regulating, the EPA did a horrible job in Flint. As you know, they knew about it when in March. And when did the scandal become a scandal? Months later. So if we're really worried about government handling our problems, they've seemed to do a hack job at best handling the issue. But I do think if there is a profit motif in creating, I don't know what it could be, but a pollution collector or something that the market would have to do, there could be profit in that, which obviously none of us know of
There
that.
could be.
But I do agree that there
by
is
the
a
same
balance.
token, right? I mean, you're saying I agree with you in terms of how did they implement it may not be most efficient. I agree with that, but the fact that they set fuel standards on cars, have car makers not risen up to that? So when they said,
Great point.
so like when a regulation is set, the market is. If that was not there, we would still be driving cars that are giving us
12 miles a
12
gallon,
miles an
which I
hour.
got. Now
but
I
when
get
they
40.
set a standard, they had to rise up to
Good
it.
point.
And the question is everything implemented very efficiently? And I agree with you. Government is not necessarily always the most efficient.
Not
but
always.
The
It's
theory,
usually not.
Usually not.
well,
But you can't cherry pick one thing. I mean, air is cleaner than it was 20 years ago. Water is
Yeah.
cleaner than it
Yeah.
was 20 years.
And it
Our
would
food
not
is
have
safer.
happened
Yeah,
There was
so
no
it is
way.
working.
It's working. It's
Oh.
working. In isolated
So-
instances, it's completely
so-
failing. And it's slow, it's
so-
inept, it's corrupt,
Yeah,
but it is
so
working on some
basically
level.
this wouldn't
Yeah,
have
but
happened
who's-
had regulations, had government not had a role. I mean, there are certain things where the
No,
market will not take care of the
It is
problem.
not a black and white. I
It's
couldn't
not
agree
black
more. I do not believe government should be out of this. Government absolutely has a role. What I don't want them to do is to impose this
Right.
role over the entire economy and without regard to costs and the impact it has on the current
Sure.
economic condition.
But I
That
have
has
a
to be
question.
very textured, and it has to be more about the system and not about the individual company.
I have a question. Most of us, I hope, in this room would agree there's climate change. Okay?
Climate's always changing.
Okay, but
Yeah, right, that's
okay,
exactly
that's
right.
true.
But I'm not a
I-
scientist.
Okay, right. I'm not a scientist.
We
I haven't
also
read
agree that's a
anything. I haven't
science.
know anything. Serious climate change. That's happened. But people still, I think 50%, if not more, of America don't believe it.
That's correct.
Okay. Now there's actually a movement behind that, and that movement's being funded by some industrialists. Not all, but some are putting that forward because regulations interfere with their profit.
You're
So
making too sweeping it.
Go ahead.
Most people believe there's climate change. As a matter of fact, an overwhelming majority of the population knows there's climate change. The question is, to what degree is it caused by human behavior? That's a different question. And that question is textured enough that you can't overlook it.
Well, the 50% number is the study that said 50% of people believe it is naturally occurring climate change and not
Versus
from us.
human.
Versus
But if you
in this
said
country.
climate change,
Yes,
most
of
people
course,
believe it.
of course.
But
But
the
that's
people,
not what he said.
but the people funding that belief are industrialists who do not want regulations. So if you take away the regulations, you will have people who will fight to have even less regulations, and then you'll have more pollution.
That's what democracies are about. You get to fight for what you believe in.
Yeah, but sometimes they don't work. It didn't work in the South during segregation.
So who should
and it didn't
then-
work when women didn't have to vote either. What happens is that sometimes there are manifest injustices.
If you don't believe in environmental regulation, then you're a bigot.
I don't say that.
You got to be careful. Then be
There are
careful.
some very nice people I know.
Okay.
Some of my best friends. But the point I'm making is that with the banks, that was terrible. Yes, people lost money. That's terrible that happened. But we're dealing with the environment. We're dealing with an issue that is far too big. We're dealing with the health of our children and our
You're
grandchildren.
trivializing the pain that people go through in the short term. And I don't think you can trivialize that. I think you have to weigh that.
You're going to sell the present for the future.
No, I'm gonna understand that there's a balance between the two. You could say, okay, you can't drive cars. We can solve this problem. You can't have manufacturing facilities and you can't drive cars and there's no more pollution. At least there'll still be 98% of the pollution will still occur because China and India are doing it. But we'll have done our part. Well, how will that affect your life, and my life? The economy will be destroyed by that and lives will be destroyed. I don't think you can trivialize that. I think that's an important variable that we have to listen to.
And I agree with you. More regulation should be reasonable, and addressing Andrew also be properly enforced, which we have to do better. To say we've done a lousy job, which we have in many instances,
Yeah.
we've done a good job in other instances, and Rob's brought that out. That only should motivate us to do a better job instead of saying don't do it at all because they can't handle it.
See,
Student's turn again. Or student?
Yes.
Yeah.
A few points. First, I think when we're talking about an incentive, like I was before. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
that happens to me all the time. It'll happen more as you get older.
What do you say?
But the question was, you put a statistic on a sheet, I think at the beginning of First Amendment, 97% of scientists, and not 97% of climate scientists. And there's a reason, and the question is whether or not it's anthropogenic or, naturally occurring. But there was a statistic, and I'm not really sure if it's true, I'm sure you could correct me if I'm wrong.
We'll see.
But isn't it true that you release more carbon dioxide walking somewhere as opposed to driving?
It's not. We do. You're almost right. We do emit a lot more carbon than you would think, carbon dioxide, by walking, because all the food we eat and the carbon dioxide associated with the emissions from growing that food. We do that. However,
I just bought a hybrid car.
the cars are still higher. I mean, I've looked at the numbers, and I think you're right. I think we're not critical in the way we look at carbon dioxide and how we think about emissions, and we should do a better job at that. But so to answer your question, yes and no.
And I guess that just leads me to my next point, which is my father is actually an executive at Talon Energy, so I've actually had long, extensive conversations with him about things like Solyndra and sustainable energy. But he said, I mean, for him, it's not cost efficient.
Right.
It's not there yet. The market will get there, but now they've found enough oil to sustain the market for the next 200 so years, and that's with our current level. That's actually accounting for current and increasing levels of output and usage, as well as technology increasing. So the idea that we'll be able to get more for less.
Yeah.
So I think.
That. So your point
there's plenty of energy sources that we know are good, nuclear, but it's too costly to create a nuclear facility. So my question to you would be, how much should the government inject of its own money just because they've got the biggest piggy bank? Does that mean they should just be special?
We're actually paying debt money to do this. We're actually going to debt to fund solar. Just to be fair to your point, it's a big question of whether the government should be supporting this, right?
Well, and that I think imposing regulatory standards. He's going to beat me to death.
No, go ahead.
This.
I'm not.
Yes, sir. Over many years, you'll do this to me.
Yes, I will. Slowly.
Is actually good, and that's where you'll beat me up.
Thank you.
And I'm more than anxious to have the debate over what the nature of the regulatory imposition should be. That's a heated debate.
You want it to be predictable.
I want it to be predictable and understandable and levelly delivered. I don't want them to say, well, you're the winner and you're the loser, and therefore...
Agreed.
I want to say, here's the standard. Now, under a competitive environment, the best company is going to go deliver on that standard. I don't want them investing in Cylinder. I don't want them making the kinds of investment decisions that the private enterprise ought to be making. I know we can do better than the government, and the cronyism that is created because of that is revolting, and I think that it deteriorates a democratic society. I don't want I like our congressman and our senator. I don't think they're venture capitalists.
And that's not just solar, right? That's true
absolutely
across the
In fact,
board.
how do you pick and choose?
Yeah.
And in fact, just as a sidebar, I guess, I was listening to this news the other day, and the amount of money that China has invested in solar panels, and they have really subsidized that industry.
Yeah.
But one of the things that's come out of that is that they have been able to reduce their fossil fuel dependence by 10% because of this investment in solar power. And so maybe the government had a different motivation in doing it. It was probably trying to overtake the US as far as this industry goes. But it seems to be having an impact even in China. So even though it remains the biggest polluter, but 10%, they have reduced their
Very quickly.
fossil fuel, by 10%. And this is because they subsidized, the government subsidized the solar power industry there. And to some extent, that's, I mean, and I agree with you on how do you pick and choose, who do you support?
Well, especially in China, where the economic system is very different.
Yeah.
They're co-owners
Yeah, absolutely.
of the system, and so I have some issues around.
No, absolutely. I agree with that.
After your thing, we have another idea we want to talk about after your statement about the military. And go ahead.
Oh, I was going to speak just to what you were talking about, I guess, corporate welfare and how you choose, like, pick and choose your winners in the marketplace, which I do agree is wrong. But more to that point is when we talk about just deficit spending as a whole, but the unfunded liabilities in this country are $150 trillion by latest estimates. It's twice the GDP of the entire world.
Right.
So the idea that we can spend money that we don't have on things that the market isn't even demanding, because if it were demanding it, it would be done, even if it were cost efficient, which it so far is not. So I think once it gets there, I think we can have a more robust conversation about possibilities rather than just, frankly, pipe dreams.
Good point. And I think you and I both agree we can't raise taxes to solve this problem. We're already so far in debt. To raise taxes to solve this too big to fail, we can't do it. Because then the government will fail and the country will fail. So we all agreed raising taxes was not a way to solve this problem.
Yeah, I don't want you to go to law school. You should be in business.
You could be in business
That's for me to
school.
decide. I don't care. You just still do something and create value. You're a very interesting guy. Just because I agree with him.
Yeah, well,
He's really an anarchist.
so if we can't raise taxes, I'm going to agree with you. I think that raising taxes would be your moral to solve this problem. The fact that we're how many trillion in debt right now in this country?
19.
We're right at 19
So
trillion.
the question is,
Little.
let's just say we agree that the government should intercede here and should. So let's, for the sake of the argument, let's say the government's one that's going to handle this problem. Where are we going to get the money within the government, within the budgets we already have? Who's going to solve it?
Well,
Go ahead.
so strangely enough, when you look at the private sector, it spends almost all of its money on public goods as opposed to the government. The public sector, which spends almost all of its money
Man, that's
on
a sweeping
private
statement.
goods.
Boy,
I mean, it is.
come
but
on now.
all of it.
Everything they make
I
are public
said
goods.
almost. I caveat.
Okay,
that.
please,
Cover
thank you.
myself a little bit. But there are excludable and non-excludable goods. Like a sidewalk is a non-excludable
Right.
good. Me listening to the radio is a non-excludable good.
Okay.
Missile defense systems, thankfully, are non-excludable goods that
Right.
were provided by our government. But the private sector provides us with cheaper and more robust cell phones every year. I mean, whether or not they're cheaper, but they are better. They are getting better. But we look at maybe things like education, not a knock at education, but maybe the Socratic method has been proven to not be as efficient as the marketplace has taken. You know, when you have
We're gonna find out soon,
homeschooling
aren't we?
education, you have
You can't agree with
great
everything.
articles.
No, it's just
And-
particular.
But I disagree with you one thing, with the phones especially. They're producing better phones because we want them, okay?
That's a good reason.
I don't know if we want a better environment. I mean, I don't know if people,
You don't see it.
in this
Yeah.
room.
Short
we do.
term, though, yeah.
But we want this phone. I want my phone. I had 16 meg. I got 32 now. Yeah, okay. I got the instant gratification for it. But environment is slow. It's not instant.
People in
We
the
don't.
country is affected by it.
Yes. If I was sitting in Bangladesh, I would be more
You would.
concerned
Right.
today
You would.
than when I'm sitting here because I don't see it.
So we're not demanding it.
I
demanded more memory in this phone.
So
So they made it, but
So
I'm not
somebody
demanding.
much smarter than us should make those demands for us because we're not smart enough.
I don't trust the
Well,
marketplace on those
you know what? I'm going to
situations.
say yes. On some level, yes. I know you're going to disagree with this, but you think about wants versus needs. Private industry tends to look at wants to maximize profit based on people's wants. Government's job is to look at needs. And right now, there is a need to intercede to solve this environmental crisis. The free market doesn't move fast enough. And now the question, I'm going to keep putting us back to this question. We can't raise taxes. The government's going to have to do a big role here because we're not capable ourselves. We don't see the problem coming fast enough. What should we do? What do we want our government to do? You're going to
So yes, so I've been listening.
Who are you?
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Ron Kander here
He's
from
been very
Canberra
quiet.
College. We've been talking about who should solve the problem, as opposed to how to solve the problem. Because I don't think people inherently want to make bad decisions. I don't think corporations inherently want to make bad decisions. But if you look at the psychology of decision making, people make bad decisions when the impact, the consequence of the decision isn't either spatially or temporally near. Right? So
it's a way.
Right, it's a way.
Right.
So, like, the great example that's used is if, would you go, students in the room, would you go into a music store and pick up a CD or a DVD, stick it in your coat, and try to steal it by walking out? Probably not, right?
Hope not.
But if you can download a song for free off the internet,
There you go.
right? You do it because the impact of I just busted because the impact of that decision isn't right in your face, right? You know by walking out of that store with that thing in your hand that you stole something,
That's a great example.
right? But
Funny.
if it's out in the ether somewhere, the impact of you don't see the person that didn't make the money for not buying that song or that album. And that's sort of like we were talking about the impact of pollution on producing a car, right? That company doesn't see the near-term impact of that pollution, right?
It sees it.
I mean, sees it on their balance
That's
sheet.
affected.
But
their balance sheet
But
doesn't.
that's
Correct.
a perfect example of where regulatory interface is appropriate.
Exactly.
It
So-
is. What's the name of the site that got closed down?
Napster.
Napster.
Right.
It got closed down because the government said this is the judicial
Yeah,
said this is stealing.
This is illegal, right?
Yeah.
So when you to get to your question, sorry for the long preamble, but so maybe the solution is not telling people what they should do, but the government's role could be to how could you make the impacts of your decisions
More
so
directly out.
transparent and in your face that people, on average, will make better decisions about their choices.
I got an example of how they could do that. You take your exhaust from your car,
You put it back.
and you put it back into your cab where you're driving. I guarantee you'll buy a hybrid right away, right? Because it's in. I'm supporting
Yeah, I
your
understand
point.
what you mean.
It
Yeah,
supports
yeah.
your point immediately because I drive a hybrid. I don't really know if I'm doing anything.
But okay, that's a great example. A hybrid might be a horrible decision if the life cycle impact of all the batteries in that hybrid are a larger drain on the environment than that.
So I got to scoop up some of the
That's
battery
not-
acid into my food.
So how does a consumer know? Like look at the energy rating on a refrigerator or an air conditioner, right?
Yes.
That allows a consumer to have some near-term information about the long-term impact, right? There's no
And the government did that.
right, and so that's a great example
good
of giving a
information.
person
So you're
a
okay
piece
with
of
that?
information.
Yeah.
And that's where mileage limits are the same way, right? A miles per gallon is another measure.
Calories on a restaurant.
Yeah, calories on a piece of food.
Be self-aware.
But
So-
Ron, when you're talking about decision making, it makes perfect sense what you said, but you're not factoring in greed, because there are times where a company will make a decision
Right.
knowing, understanding fully the damage they're doing.
Volkswagen.
But this is
that
where I.
Spinelli car
but this is
company
where
that's
I.
dumping
This is
in on
where I
purpose.
strongly agree with Steve, though. That if the impact of that decision is transparent to the consumer, they'll get shut down.
Volkswagen.
And to give an example,
Yeah.
Ford Pinto, 1971.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything that happened with that. But
Yeah.
now you look at car safety ratings, heavily regulated, but they're regulated by the car manufacturers themselves, not the government. And they weren't sued after the fact, and that's what they did their
Well,
costs.
yeah.
They did
That's
their
another
cost
good example
equation.
where the government put in place the rating system so that we could see the 4-star, 5-star, right? If you put the rating system so that it's in your face, now the car companies have no choice but to build a vehicle that's going
But they've held
And
higher
economists
standards for
will
themselves
tell you that
and
the way
innovated.
to
Right.
change behaviors to provide the right incentives.
I'm good with all of this. I don't think it's enough, and it's not going to be enough fast enough. I still have a major environmental crisis that's happening right now that I need to solve within this generation. putting the labels is not going to do it for me quick enough.
Then you got to move to China and start a revolution.
No, we have to only deal with it here in this country. We
No,
can't.
but you want us to be idealistic and to do our part, but you don't care if the environment really fails as long as we do our part. That's
No,
what I just heard you say.
I want to fix the environment. I do.
But
I do wanna fix the
acknowledge
environment.
you can't unless India and China.
I acknowledge that I don't know how to make that happen. I don't understand that.
But by doing nothing or not doing enough, that sure is not going to set an example. And I think what you said earlier is, since when does the United States follow?
I think it's a
Are we
wonderful
supposed to
ideal. I do believe, and I do respect you.
I know.
I both respect you
I'm allowed to
intellectually
disagree.
and
I'm cool.
emotionally. You are cool.
Yeah, thank you.
And smart. Reasonably handsome too.
I try.
No, you had me there until the
You knew we went too far.
Yeah.
We better zone
But you
quarter.
are contradicting yourself.
Yeah, I usually do. It's okay.
When you say I want to solve the problem, except I won't really tackle the big part of it. And until we do that, this is all about feeling good about ourselves, not about leading, not about changing. It's about hurting our population.
To some extent, I mean, again, can we get to it tomorrow? Maybe not. But some of the solution comes from technology, right? So as we are changing the fuel, I mean, if fossil fuel is what is part of that whole problem, we are getting away from it. The technology is one way we are doing it. So investing in the right kind of technology is one thing. But then, I mean, reallocation of resources. I mean, the government has to decide where it wants to spend its money, and it has to provide. And I totally believe that it's not necessarily the government doing everything, but government providing the right incentives for people to behave a certain way. And so if we can get people to do that, because the incentives are there. So when the incentives are there, like subsidies for using solar power, or even hybrid cars, like in California, you get a subsidy for buying a car that's a hybrid car.
Oh, yeah,
A lot of
thanks for
people are
that,
buying
too,
it.
by the way.
So because
But see, that's not sustainable. And I think that's where the cronyism and the picking and choosing really gets to bothers me. And there's this massive inefficiency involved in that. And I think a deterioration of democracy. I think you put in the reason I like regulations that are neutral to the individual player. You have to have 30 miles per gallon. I don't remember what the thing was, but whatever it is, you can do that at Ford, or you can do that at Toyota, or if you want to sell in this country, you got to hit that. Now go compete and hit that. Innovation, new ventures, competition, pricing, everything gets better. That's government's role, not to say, I like solar, so I'm going to invest in Solyndra and I'm going to buy you a car. I think that's awful policy.
I'm not saying the government necessarily has to invest in Solyndra, but you're saying that there is a subsidy for any alternative fuel project that you want to start, and that's pretty much how taxes and subsidies work anyways. And then you'll have private investment coming up to take advantage of that.
Well, see, I would prefer, as a matter of philosophy, and it'd be interesting to get your reaction to this one, I would prefer a lower tax rate and a penalty for breaching, rather than a higher tax rate and an incentive to alternatively invest, because I think that's where the cronyism comes in.
But
I go to Washington, D.C., and I spread around some money, and all of a sudden my industry is included in this subsidy.
I mean, that's
I hate it.
So
the politics of it.
So
I think
Rob,
we'd all agree with that.
this is Ron again. So Rob, would you say switching everybody in the United States to electric cars would take a step in the right direction? Switching everybody in the world to electric cars?
Assuming that you're not tricking me, yes, I would say yes.
Because there's not tricky. There's
Going
not
down
enough.
that
I know
road.
that.
Electric car, we're going down.
There's not enough lithium in the world to make the batteries necessary to build that many electric cars.
Not yet, but go ahead.
No. There's no more lithium. You're not gonna make more lithium.
But we can find substitutes.
Right,
I mean, once
right.
the
So-
market is generated, we can generate.
There you go. So okay.
I wish the free market could solve this problem. I want to make people to make money. I want the free market to solve it. I really do, but I don't think it works.
Hi, my name is Andrew Dimko. I'm an MBA student at LAU. Really proud of this. So I think that the sustainable way to help our environment is to make money, actually. One of the examples is that 2 or 3 days ago, Apple, they had a presentation. And they said that 100% of all their facilities, data centers, offices in the United States and in China has sustainable energy, their source of energy. and 93% of all their facilities in the world, data centers, offices, are from sustainable energy.
Right.
So why? So I think is that why people, why United States is the country that really think about this, not China, not India, because United States is the richest country. Because when you're rich, when we hear like we have money, we don't need to think about food. That's why we can talk about this or can discuss about this. When you're in India or in China, you need to eat today.
Sure.
Environment will not kill you tomorrow, but food will.
Right.
So the idea is that when you have money, when you have like enough money, you don't think in a year perspective, in 5 years. You think about what will be in 100 years,
Right.
or what will be in 3016.
Right.
And
Okay.
when you think about this, then you need to, and when you earn this money, you need to give it to someone, and basically it's your children, right? And then you don't want to lose it.
So this is great, and we call this the Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory of sustainability. You guys are not going to like where this goes, because when you live in a society where your basic needs are met, where you're not looking for your next meal, you can think about sustainability. Okay, because that's what you just said.
Yeah.
So now, what some sustainability people would say, we should solve poverty. If we hold on. If we solve poverty and everybody has their basic needs met, I knew you wouldn't like that. Then all of a sudden,
No, I like it.
everybody can look for the next day and they can look for the future generation.
No, we love that.
I assumed you guys wouldn't be
No,
for
that's
that.
awesome.
Because who's going to solve the poverty problem?
The
That's not what you
entrepreneurs,
said, is it?
the free market.
Okay,
I'm saying-
Let's teach them how to start businesses and how to improve
I
their
would
lives.
love to see that.
That's exactly
That would
how-
get to your point, right?
I'm saying
Wouldn't
to earn money as companies. So I think not governments, not individuals,
Right.
companies can do this, like really big companies. They can do this more efficiently.
Right.
So for example, Elon Musk's SpaceX. Companies are much more efficient than governments. So governments, it's like we need to have them, but companies, they really do things more efficient because they have real expenses and real problems.
But that's exactly how the U.S. economy works, and that's where the U.S. economy is different from
Yeah.
India or China,
Yes.
where a lot of decisions are being made by the government, and government is running businesses. Here, the whole idea is government is not in running businesses. What they're doing is they're setting the standard, they're setting the incentives, and then private industry needs to come up and do all this. So when you say, what do we subsidize? We subsidize R&D. Why do we subsidize it? Because that's what leads to all this innovation in the private sector. So if we didn't have an NIH, if we didn't have these public sector, R&D going on, where a huge amount of money goes in, where a lot of the returns are not to be seen very easily. But it's the knowledge that comes out of that is what leads to all this new innovation from private sector. And if government was not doing that,
You took it just a half step too far for me.
Not to me.
The return on NIH investment over 40 years is abysmal. I still think there's real value, but the return on privately invested funds versus NIH and government funds is far superior.
that's very simple. The answer is because government is funding all kinds of research, which includes basic research. So the very idea of all these new drugs that are coming out, initially the first step comes from some university. It doesn't lead to the production of a product which leads to money.
Well, I agree
So
in very targeted areas. Biosciences and pharma being probably the two. The rest of any government innovation, any government spending and investment in R&D has been mostly a dismal failure.
But take the case of NASA, all of this, cell phone technology, internet, all of that really has come from public sector investment. So the kernel of the idea was there, and that's what was used by private industry to actually now monetize it in the form of a
But
product.
you said return on investment. One more point.
And then you're fine.
There's also a health return. Curing polio probably came from public funding first and then went into the private sector. So there's other kinds of returns on investment besides financial.
Well, you could derive a financial return even out of that.
I know you could.
But
I was just going back to the empathy thing. There's got to be more than just money return.
Well,
He's been trying to make it.
my last point on the empathy thing, and then you should say more because I agree with everything you've said so far. And you've said it better than me anyway. Is that we are the most generous society in the history of the world.
Okay.
And that has made a huge difference.
Is that true? You got your internet there. You can check that.
In
But let's
terms of monetary value,
Let's
I'd
say you're
yes,
right.
but
Let's say you're right.
Percentage of GDP,
I
nothing
can
more.
agree with monetary.
Okay. So what do you got?
That was it. Now it's a
But is that money given because you want to feel good, or you want to do something good for people? Is it?
Yes.
I made my millions. I
Well,
feel guilty how I made the
well,
millions.
does it
Let me
matter?
give
What's the
a new $1
difference?
million.
Yeah.
No,
Does
it
it matter?
matters a lot. Sure.
Yeah,
of course
why?
it does. What?
Why?
What do you mean?
Why?
Why?
If $1 million goes to the Cancer Society, do you throw
Let me
wine
give you an
there?
example.
So when's the last time you would turn down $1 million gift to the sustainability program because I gave it to you because I changed?
I would
the-
take your money.
Well, I think
But go ahead.
Maybe one of the
He
people
wants
give
to
it
talk.
to.
Oh, I was
You
just
take $1
saying,
million bucks
the
from
motive
corporate.
should. I don't think the
think so.
motive should matter, whether it's profit or humanitarian. I don't think it really matters
I agree.
how it gets there. But money, we're talking about it as if it's monopoly. It's a simple technology. It's record-keeping technology. That's the point of the dollar, and it's commerce. And we're all told we have to trade dollars, but there isn't anything for the public sector to invest. There is nothing there. I mean, like I said, our current pensions right now are ridiculous, but those are government workers. And the U.S. government employs more people than any corporation in the world. Right now, our public sector isn't robust. It has no incentive to be efficient anymore. There's no incentive to be efficient if you can't go out of business. It's a immortal corporation that can't go out of business, and now it's tied itself not only to our healthcare system, but our banking system as well. So now it's reshaped 1/6 of the U.S. economy, and no matter what they do, those people can't go out of business because, like
I
most
can tell you why you're
student
wrong.
loans.
I can give you a specific example. Philadelphia, city of Philadelphia, totally broke, develops a mayor's office of sustainability, funds it on your money and our money. I go down there every day. Those people are hustling. They're not hustling to make $1. They're hustling because they believe in their mission and their values, and they want to see the city move in a direction they think is good for the future of humanity. They weren't motivated by money at all.
I think that it's a very cool example.
So I think you're right in general, but I don't think you're universally correct.
Well,
There
I
are
didn't
others.
say that. I didn't say
There's
that
lots of-
government workers.
There
weren't
has to be
trying.
statistical average.
Yeah, but the
changing.
reality is, you said it early on.
Uh-huh.
The reality is, governments can go broke, and this one could.
That's.
I mean, we
yes.
are so far
Yes.
underwater that I hate taxes, and I would rather spend my money than have anyone else spend my money.
Agreed.
But we are so far in debt, I don't understand how we get out of this unless we grow at a far superior rate to what we are now. Not just a superior rate, but a far superior rate. Or if we have to have some short-term tax increase to pay down debt. I don't see how this doesn't spin out of control.
I wish you weren't saying that, but I agree.
We have to.
We can't end on this. Wait, whoa. We cannot end on the government spinning out of control.
Okay,
so let's
so-
try to,
Okay, bring it
we
up.
had some good. We had some good
Come on.
Well,
conversations.
we ended up with some real
We did.
agreement from.
I think so.
You know, we believe that there is an issue, and both sides of this, the degree to which and who's it, but there is an issue with the environment, and the failure of the environment would be absolutely catastrophic. We also believe, I think we've agreed, that the government has a role. Now, the extent of that role, we disagree on.
Yes.
But at the very least, we agree that there's an information asymmetry that could be corrected by government. Those are probably more than 90% of the population understand about the agreement that you can have on both ends of this. And remember, we went into this, Rob and I went into this saying, okay, whatever you say, I'm going to disagree with. So
That's true.
at the end of it, we still came to agreement, even though we pledged to disagree.
Yes, that's
Well, he
true.
didn't disagree with him being handsome, so I guess.
That's.
Yeah, he didn't return the compliment.
That he did not.
That'd be a career limiting step.
Right about Dr. Swell.
Well, thank you.
Good
This is what higher education is about. Coming with dramatically diverse disciplines and perspectives and views of the world, caring deeply about it, and caring deeply about someone else's opinion, and that you're willing to share it and sort of expose all your feelings and your intellect in a group that says, you know, I respect who you are. And that's, I think, one of the great things about Philadelphia University.
Here.
Agreed.
Agreed.